We are following breaking news. Hunter Biden has lost his bid to dismiss federal gun charges against him, and his trial is set to begin next month. The president's son faces 3 felony counts stemming from his purchase of a gun in 2018 while he was a drug user. I want to bring in now CBS News Justice Department reporter Rob Legare. He's following this from our Washington bureau. So, Rob, first of all, let's break down the argument that Hunter Biden's lawyers made and why the judge rejected this motion.
Sure. So this is an appeals court ruling from the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and they have rejected Hunter Biden's request that they take up these motions to dismiss the indictment before trial. And so Hunter Biden's attorneys had argued in numerous pretrial motions to dismiss the indictment that the trial should not go forward and the charges should be dropped. They said that they took issue with how the charges were brought. They took issue with the special counsel himself, David Weiss, and they also said that previous agreements with prosecutors were still in place because there was a signed agreement between the parties that some of the charges would be dropped and he'd plead guilty to others. And so basically, this all amounted to an effort to avoid trial, and a district court judge in April rejected those claims and said the trial should move forward. Hunter Biden's attorneys brought that to the appeals court, and the appeals court has said on jurisdictional grounds that this cannot go forward, that this trial will go forward, and it was too early to bring this appeal, and the appeal needed to be brought after a conviction, if a conviction occurs.
So, Rob, let's rewind just a little bit and let's review what the charges were, the backstory to all of this. Remind our viewers how the agreement that you alluded to with the DOJ fell apart.
Sure, right. So David Weiss, who's a U.S. attorney in Delaware, was appointed by former President Donald Trump. He was kept on by Merrick Garland, Joe Biden's attorney general. David Weiss was kept on to continue this investigation, ultimately appointed special counsel. Before that, there was an agreement with prosecutors and Hunter Biden's legal team. It was a deferred prosecution agreement on some of the charges, as well as a guilty plea on others. There was supposedly an agreement there last summer, and during what was really a high drama court hearing, the judge rejected that agreement and said that the parties were not in agreement, and basically sent them back to the drawing board. That resulted in these charges that we have here today that basically, as you said at the beginning, amount to illegal use of a firearm by somebody who was on, or possession of a firearm, by somebody who was using drugs at the time and lying on federal forms. And so now here we are. The the current president, Joe Biden, his son, Hunter Biden, has pleaded not guilty to these charges and has, as we've been talking about, mounted this attempt to dismiss the charges. His attorneys in a statement today tell CBS News' Erica Brown that they're going to pursue further review because they think that is appropriate at this time.
All right, Rob. I want to bring in now Jessica Levinson for some more legal analysis. She's a CBS News legal contributor and a professor at Loyola Law School. So, Jessica, what do you make? We just heard from Rob that the argument was that the previous agreement that Hunter Biden's legal team had with the DOJ, it was still in place. Does that actually resonate? It obviously didn't with the judge, but talk about whether or not this motion to dismiss, what went into it.
Well, great reporting by Rob. It's exactly right. This is a rejection of a motion to dismiss by an appellate court. And all they're saying is really, we can't review this. The thing that you appealed is not something that we can weigh in on. And so I don't want people to think that this means, frankly, anything more than it does. This doesn't mean that the prosecution has a absolutely airtight case. It doesn't mean the defense has nothing here. It just means that their appeal, which was based on the idea that the trial can't go forward because there was a plea agreement that should have been in place, the appellate court basically said, not it. It's not something that we can rule on. And frankly, I don't think this was the strongest argument from, I believe it's Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's attorney, who was saying, well, we agreed to something, and so now you, prosecution, are trying to back out because you are trying to go forward with a trial when we agreed no trial. For a bunch of reasons, I think on the substance, that was not going to be a winning argument. And this isn't even a ruling on the substance. This is just a ruling from the appellate court saying, we can't even be here deciding that issue.
Jessica, appreciate the guidance on what this doesn't mean, but what it does mean is that Hunter Biden is going to go forward with this trial. So What will that defense look like as the trial begins?
So I think part of the defense here, my understanding is what still stands is the really big constitutional question where Hunter Biden is going to argue that this form that said, as a drug user, that he checked it off, that he's not a drug user and therefore that he could possess and buy a firearm, that the form itself violates the Second Amendment. And so what I think he's really teeing up is a really broad constitutional attack on the charges here, where he's going to say under the Second Amendment, which of course is the right to bear arms, which the Supreme Court has said is an individual right, that you can't prohibit people from buying guns and possessing guns under these circumstances. So it is an irony here that we have a president who is very much in favor of gun control, and we have his son who may, in his criminal trial, bring up a case that, frankly, is espousing a broader view of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, that might open it up even more. Jessica, I want to ask you more about the timeline. How long, now that this is definitely going to trial, it looks like, how long might this trial last, and how does that push up against potentially the November election?
So, yes, we talk about this question with respect to a former president, not a current president's son, because as is the case in America in 2024, we seem to have legal calendars colliding with electoral calendars in a not insignificant amount of time. So the short version is I think this case could go to trial and be wrapped up before the election. And it depends, and I know everybody hates it when I say this, but it depends on some other motions that are still before this trial court judge. And they are motions dealing with the Second Amendment issue that we talked about. Also, I believe that there are still some evidentiary motions that are pending. And of course, Hunter Biden is also facing tax evasion charges as well. But the short answer is I think it is possible that you could have this trial begin and you could have a verdict before we have an election.
All right. Rob Legare and Jessica Levinson, thank you both.